Who is coaching Texas next season?
I love this question. My response was just a picture of John Calipari. And at the time, I'm like, LOL, wouldn't that be funny? And then I think you responded, it's like, that would be kind of interesting. And you think about it a little bit more, and it's like, that was obviously the first one I thought of, because John Calipari, it's like every job that opens, he seems to be mentioned because every program wants John Calipari. At this point, it feels like Kentucky fans would pay for shipping, right? Like they're kind of sick of John Calipari. They're 10-4 this season, which is a disappointment. I think that relative to preseason expectations, kind of continues recent trend of not quite meeting expectations by UK fans. And they have lofty expectations, and I think that's very, very, very fair at the University of Kentucky. But lost to St. Peter's in the NCAA tournament. Haven't been to the Final Four since 2015. No Elite Eights since 2018. Their offense looks totally archaic. They have a ton of talent every year, and every year it just feels like they're not quite meeting the expectations. So maybe a refresh or restart could be what Kentucky and Calipari needs. So John Calipari to me is 1A on Texas's wish list. I don't know if he'd be coaching next season at Texas, but he's the one that I think Texas could potentially, like, the one big fish that actually could be realistic.
I put together a list of Texas candidates last night. You can find it at cbssports.com. And on that list is John Calipari. And immediately from some people, it was like, yeah, but why would the Kentucky coach leave for Texas? And that's an easy thing to say in a vacuum, but we're not in a vacuum here. The context of the situation matters. By the way, there's a Kentucky coach named Tubby Smith who left for Minnesota.
Yeah.
For the exact same reasons, because it had become miserable and unbearable because what you were doing for that school was no longer enough for the fan base. Don't ever forget, like, why would the Kentucky coach leave for Texas? More or less for the same reasons the Kentucky coach left for Minnesota. Because you reach a point, I think we can all agree there is no bigger and more intense fan base than the Kentucky fan base. There are other big and intense fan bases, Indiana, obviously, Kansas, North Carolina. I don't think there's a bigger and more intense fan base than the Kentucky fan base. And when things are going well, I mean, you're a god. There was a